Hello, class, and welcome to Interviewing Techniques. This week we're going to be taking a look at expressing genuine empathy. My name is Dr. Neil Soggie, and I am your instructor for this course. So, let's start off with what is empathy. Well, first off, empathy is more than understanding another person's words. It's really about entering their emotional world. As counselors, we don't just listen for content. We attune to tone and to body language and to silence. And we are always open for the stories that are appearing between the lines. Empathy is about allowing us to build connection, to reduce shame, and open the doors to ultimate healing. Now, in addictions work, where clients often carry deep guilt or fear of judgment, empathy is essential, and it helps to reduce the reactive emotional responses that sometimes come from clients. So, in this lecture, a few things that we're going to be covering. As always, I want to start off with a little story about someone important in the field that gives us some insights into this field. Then we'll move on to what is the difference between empathy and sympathy. They're kind of like kissing cousins, but there's some important distinguishing characteristics of the two. Then we move on to how to communicate empathy verbally and non-verbally. And then we'll highlight empathy really being used as a tool for healing, particularly within addictions counseling. So, as far as the story goes, I want to introduce you to Brené Brown, who is a researcher from the University of Houston. She was born in 1965 and has spent decades studying things like shame and vulnerability and courage and, of course, empathy. And her works have really reached millions, particularly because she had a viral TED Talk that came out and really struck a chord with many people. And then, along with that, some best-selling books. Brown's really highlights the power of things like vulnerability and recognizing that vulnerability of those that are caring for people is really a necessity of empathy. It's what creates human connection. And she teaches that empathy fuels connection, while sympathy drives disconnection. And so that's part of why we want to distinguish between empathy and sympathy. Empathy fuels connection, while sympathy drives disconnection. Now, Brown's work has shaped a lot of public and professional understandings of how and why it's important to have things like emotional intelligence in working with people, especially within counseling and recovery spaces. So, those are some things that I want you to be mindful of and just be aware of the work and the contribution of Brené Brown. And if you ever get a chance, if you haven't ever seen her TED Talks or taken a look at any of her books, I do highly recommend that you take some time and look at those. Now, let's take a look at empathy. What is empathy? Well, essentially, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Empathy is that skill of walking into another person's lived world and to truly understand what it is like to live within that lived world of the other person. So it's not about fixing, that world. It's not about solving problems or simply analyzing that world. It's about being with someone in their emotional state, being present with them in their lived world. And Carl Rogers describes empathy as entering the private, perpetual world of the other and becoming thoroughly at home in it. Now, isn't that just beautiful? What a description of entering someone's world, of entering their perceptual world and becoming thoroughly at home in it. It's like you're an old friend, or someone that is dearly loved by this person, and you are living in their lived world. And empathy involves seeing the world as the client sees it, without judgment. Absolutely important in this entire process of being able to understand and share the feelings of another person. Not fixing, not solving, not even analyzing, just simply being with them in their lived world. Now, why do we need to show the difference between empathy and sympathy? Well, of course, empathy drives connection, sympathy drives in disconnection. So sympathy often sounds like this. Oh no, that's so sad. Okay? Empathy sounds more like this. That sounds incredibly painful. I am here with you. Okay? Rather than sympathy, where you are not highlighting your connection with them, empathy highlights the connection that you have with the person. It is walking alongside the person, being with the person, existing with that person. Where sympathy creates distance, empathy draws us closer. Empathy does not rush. It does not push someone. It does not rush to cheer someone up. It stays present with the emotion. Now, Brown says something like this: rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better, though, is connection. Think about that. Rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection. And so empathy brings connection. Our goal is connection. We're not fixing, we're connecting. Now, how do we communicate empathy? That's another thing. It's one thing to feel it, it's another thing to express it in a way that others understand, that there is truly a connection and can latch on to that connection. So when you use phrases that show presence and acceptance, that's when you are communicating empathy verbally. So things like, that must be so hard, or you've been carrying this a long time, or I can hear how deeply this has affected you. You see, empathic statements mirror the emotion without analyzing it. They validate the experience without minimizing it. All of that becomes very important when you're working with people. Now, why is empathy and addiction so important to connect? Well, the reason is clients that struggle with addiction often feel judged, and they've lived with this judgment because everybody's trying to fix them. And these people might be very well-meaning. In fact, they are very well-meaning, but they're missing the point. Addiction and recovery from addiction means the person is going to feel alone. They're going to feel lost. They're going to feel disconnected. And so they are longing for connection. A counselor can provide that connection. When a client who's struggling with addiction feels judged by their family or by society, or sometimes even by themselves, they feel disconnected from everything. Empathy helps to counteract this shame. Empathy says you are more than your addiction. It sees the full person. It allows clients to lower their defenses and begin to work on change. Empathy is also something that allows clients to stay when things get hard. Rather than running away, they want to stay because they know this is a place where there is a connection. If you push too hard or try to go too fast, the client will leave. But if there is a connection and you're going slow, it builds the relational safety necessary for growth. Now, of course, there needs to be professional boundaries, but boundaries and empathy can exist together. Empathy does not mean merging with the client. It means being with the client. It does not mean rescuing the client. It does not mean enabling the client. It does not mean over-identifying with the client. Boundaried empathy sounds like this. I care deeply about what you're going through. And I also want to help you find a safe path forward. Notice there. You're separate, but you're with. And you're supportive and you're loving. I care deeply about what you're going through. Okay? You're separate, but you're with. And I also want to help you find a safe path forward. You're working with them on a goal. There's no rush. It's acceptance and it's connection. Maintaining emotional boundaries also keeps you grounded and protects both you and the client. Okay, remember, this is a deeply intimate relationship. So you need to be able to practice having your own boundaries. Otherwise, the client's going to fall in love with you, you're going to fall in love with the client, and that is completely unprofessional. But recognizing that there is a boundary within the empathy helps you to find your own professional identity and to move along and support this. So what does this look like? Well, let's say the client says something like this. I've messed everything up. My kids won't even talk to me. The counselor might say something like this. It sounds like you're carrying a lot of regret and maybe some grief too. Okay? Notice there's some reflection in there. No judgment, just reflection and empathy. And this reflection meets the client in their pain, but it's not trying to fix that pain. That pain might actually be an okay thing to be dealing with at that time. But it does say you are not alone in this. You're building connection. Now, even if the solution is far off, empathy helps the client feel human again. And that is really something that is profoundly important in this kind of process. So let's review a little bit of the key terms for this week. When we talk about empathy, what are we talking about? We're talking about feeling with another person, sharing in their emotional experience. Along with that, We want to have congruence. What is congruence? Congruence is the genuineness and the authenticity in the counselor's presence. And vulnerability, what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is the courage to be emotionally honest and also present with the client. Now, just a few last thoughts as we close out this week's lecture. Empathy is not a script. There are no right ways or perfect ways to automatically make a connection. But empathy is a posture. It's a drive to connect with the person, not to fix. The primary drive in empathy is connection. So as you continue in this course, practice noticing what clients are feeling beneath the words. When you talk with people, look for how they're feeling beneath those words. Reflect those emotions then gently. Be willing to sit with this discomfort sometimes when it's there. Be willing to be present. And when you show empathy, you become a mirror that shows clients their pain. And yet, their dignity. Sometimes we are the ones that need to remind the clients that they do indeed have value and dignity, and that we are there with them to represent that value and that dignity. We become witnesses to their humanity. It's more than just a technique. It creates a condition for change. So I want to encourage you as we close out to keep practicing and incorporate the art of empathy into your life, because it truly is a lifelong art. Hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.